July 19th, 2026. Gianni Infantino stood on the podium, the boos still ringing out, trying to usher the American president out of frame while Spain celebrated their World Cup win. Less than 10 minutes earlier, an Argentine player had grabbed an opponent by the throat. This was not the World Cup ending Infantino himself had promised. This is the story of how FIFA's president turned the biggest match on the calendar into the biggest headache of his own making. It started months before a ball was even kicked in the 2026 World Cup final. Infantino personally announced that the final would feature the tournament's first ever halftime show, a full Super Bowl-style production placed directly onto soccer's biggest stage, calling it a historic moment that would befit the biggest sporting event in the world. FIFA's own laws of the game state that halftime should not exceed 15 minutes. Infantino's show blew straight through that number anyway. The lineup alone tells you how far this went. Madonna opened, riding onto the field on a buggy alongside Ronaldo and Ronaldinho. Justin Bieber followed with an acoustic performance. Shakira and Burna Boy brought the tournament's official anthem to life. BTS performed. Coldplay's Chris Martin closed things out alongside a full orchestra and a chorus of children, with the Muppets making an appearance somewhere in the middle of it all. Reports estimated the full break stretched to somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes, with one widely shared estimate putting the total at just over 27 minutes, nearly double the standard interval. All while two exhausted teams sat cooling down in the tunnel. One fan summed up the mood online with a meme borrowed from The Godfather, joking that FIFA had massacred the beautiful game. Critics did not hold back. The show was accused of commercializing and Americanizing the sport, of prioritizing sponsorship revenue over the two teams who had just spent 45 minutes battling for the biggest prize in football. There was precedent for concern here too. A similar production at the previous year's Club World Cup final, staged in the same stadium, had already stretched well past the standard interval, and this time FIFA pushed the concept further onto the sport's single biggest occasion. Making two sets of players sit through a concert while their muscles cooled and their rhythm died is not a neutral decision. It is a choice that can change a match, made by a man who does not have to play in it. This was not the first time Infantino's tournament had drawn accusations of putting spectacle and favoritism ahead of fair competition. Questions about referees going easy on Argentina had followed the team since the round of 16, when Egyptian forward Mustafa Zico said flatly that the tournament had been rigged after a disputed win over his side. The same complaints resurfaced in the semi-final against England, where an early elbow from Enzo Fernandez went completely unpunished, and the first half alone produced 19 fouls, prompting even neutral American commentators watching from home to publicly ask how that was not a red card. Then came the final itself, where referee Slavko Vincic let Argentina's fouls pile up for 41 minutes before showing a single card, in a match that had already turned physical within the opening minutes. By the time the final whistle blew, the accusations against FIFA's officiating had built into something much bigger than one match. A petition demanding Argentina be banned from the World Cup for life has now passed 23 million signatures from 170 countries, driven in large part by accusations that referees and officials had been protecting the team throughout the tournament. Whether or not that petition ever leads anywhere, the scale of it says something about how much trust in FIFA's fairness had eroded by the time Infantino walked out for the trophy presentation. If you think a halftime show can't actually threaten the outcome of a World Cup final, that is exactly why this channel exists. Subscribe to the World Cup Whistleblower, because what happened once the trophy presentation started is the part Infantino never planned for. And then the presentation itself went sideways too. Minutes before Infantino and the American president took the stage, Argentina defender Nahuel Molina squared up to Spain's Rodri, prompting Eric Garcia to step in on his teammates' behalf. Argentina midfielder Leandro Paredes then grabbed Garcia by the throat and threw him to the ground, sparking a brawl that spread across the pitch as coaching staff on both sides scrambled to pull players apart. Argentina's players then turned their backs on Spain's own celebration rather than acknowledging the winners. It was, by any measure, an ugly scene for FIFA's showcase moment to follow, and it happened close enough to the trophy ceremony that officials barely had time to compose the podium before Infantino himself stepped into frame. That is exactly the moment Infantino had to manage, and by most accounts, he did not manage it well. As Spain lifted the trophy, the American president lingered at the edge of the celebration rather than stepping aside, staying in frame as confetti fell and clapping along as though he were part of the squad. Infantino could be seen trying to usher him off the stage so the players could have their moment, a scramble that played out live in front of the packed stadium and a global broadcast audience. It was an awkward echo of a nearly identical scene from the year before, when the same president stayed on the podium during a different FIFA final in the same stadium, locking his feet in position while a different set of players were left to celebrate around him. Commentators covering the match internationally noted on air that broadcasters in other countries would likely just edit the moment out entirely. None of this exists separately from questions that had already been circulating about Infantino's closeness to the White House throughout the tournament. FIFA had faced criticism over corruption concerns tied to Infantino's relationship with the American president well before the final, including reports that a phone call from the president preceded FIFA lifting a red card suspension on an American player earlier in the tournament, a decision that raised eyebrows precisely because of how directly it seemed to serve the host nation's interests. Perhaps that call changed nothing. Perhaps it is simply an uncomfortable coincidence that keeps repeating itself at exactly the moments FIFA's credibility can least afford it. To be fair to Infantino, there is a version of this story where none of it was really about ego or spectacle at all. The halftime show was organized in partnership with Global Citizen, built around a stated goal of raising $100 million for an education fund aimed at expanding access to schooling for children around the world. That is a real, defensible purpose, and it is worth saying plainly rather than dismissing outright. A show built to fund children's education is not obviously the same thing as a man chasing spectacle for its own sake. And the production itself reportedly went to real lengths to protect the actual playing surface, laying protective covering and using lightweight footwear so the grass underneath would survive the performance. But intentions and outcomes are not the same thing. Whatever the fundraising goal was, the optics on the day were brutal. A broken halftime rule, a referee record already under suspicion for an entire tournament, a brawl breaking out minutes before the trophy presentation, and then Infantino himself, on camera, trying to physically manage a sitting president who did not want to leave the frame. Every one of those moments happened on his watch, in the tournament he built his own legacy around, the same tournament he had spent months promising would be remembered as historic. He wrote the rules that got broken. He picked the partner who stayed too long in frame. And when the cameras found him at the center of it all, he was still trying to clean up a mess of his own making. So is Gianni Infantino simply the man unlucky enough to be standing at the podium when a chaotic tournament finally boiled over? Or is he the one person who actually had the power to stop each of these moments and chose spectacle instead?